All right, guys, so we got to talk about a strange story that is flying under the radar, as it is a continuation on the Paul Pelosi story that you're probably never going to hear about again, okay, at least not in the mainstream liberal media, not the way we were talking about it before the midterms, because the goal has been accomplished, right? The Democrats have survived this midterms. That story is no longer useful. They don't need it anymore. It's going to be tossed to the side because none of the facts are really adding up. Right? They don't want you to know what actually really happened, and they're going to do whatever they can to make sure that you don't know what actually happened. And of course, because we live in a time where the mainstream liberal media is an arm of the Democrat Party, they're not going to ask questions. Okay? They're not going to ask questions about the holes in the story. Okay? It is clear that the guy was not some type of flaming Trump supporter. And once that became obvious, they quickly tried to, put it aside. Let's not talk about it anymore. We got the effect out there. We pushed it to the masses, the people who don't really pay attention to what's going on, that are just going to believe it because it was said on MSNBC or CNN or ABC. Now they're done with it, okay? But we have a little follow-up here from NBC News that ran a bombshell report that really blew a hole in the story that was being told to us by the FBI and the police report about the interaction between Paul Pelosi, the police, and David DePepe when the police arrived. This report basically stated that Paul Pelosi did not seem to be in any danger. He didn't seem to be in trouble. He opened the door. He stepped back a few steps. Okay, he actually went back inside the house towards the guy that was there to allegedly assault him and to break his wife's kneecaps. He went back towards that man. Okay. And that story was told by an NBC reporter, Miguel Almaguer. Okay. And this story, they say, contradicted the FBI reports that, in my opinion, wasn't very clear about what happened at that point in regards to who actually opened the door and what was the interaction between police and Paul Pelosi at that point. And I think that this story right here that was posted by the NBC News reporter shed more light than the mainstream liberal media wanted. And it basically, again, confirmed that we've been lied to about this story in regards to the details and the circumstances. And therefore, this guy's been punished. Okay, he's now been punished for putting out that story about Paul Pelosi and his interactions with the police when he answered that door. So just to remind you guys, I want to go ahead and just play this clip so you guys are, familiar with kind of how this story was told by this guy.
Officers arrived here at the Pelosi home exactly a week ago today. They initially didn't have any idea exactly what was going on. They knew they had a high priority call on their hand. What was unclear, what was happening inside the property just behind me.
After a knock and announce, the front door was opened by Mr. Pelosi. The 82-year-old did not immediately declare an emergency or try to leave his home, but instead began walking several feet back into the foyer toward the assailant and away from police.
Now, of course, NBC retracted that story. And the stated reason why they retracted that story was that, well, the piece had been removed from publication because it did not meet NBC reporting standards. Right? This is what they're saying. It didn't meet our standards, which is interesting because you would think that this report on a story as important as the Paul Pelosi story, you would think that NBC, a major news outlet, would go through multiple edits and checks to make sure that the sourcing on this story was legit before airing it on television, especially, again, when you're giving these types of explosive details. They didn't retract the story until maybe 30 minutes to an hour, maybe a couple hours to after it aired. And then people actually saw the story and people were like, wait, this makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Why in the world would a guy who's allegedly being assaulted, right, and attacked by a home invader looking for his wife to break her kneecaps, why in the world would he walk back into the house with his attacker when the police get there? Again, it made no sense whatsoever, right? For whatever reason, when NBC went through their edits, okay, when they were vetting the story, they saw no problem with it, right? They saw absolutely no problem with it. Enough to pre-record, create graphics, go through all the things that you do before you air a story. They didn't have a problem with it until people said that this doesn't make any sense. Then that's when they retracted it. Interesting stuff. Now they're punishing the guy, Miguel Almaguer, who just simply reported on it. He was a correspondent. So again, if this guy was sourcing the story, if it came from him, again, isn't it NBC job to make sure that it's legit? But no. He's getting suspended now, right? He's the only person that's getting punished. Nobody else is getting punished, at least as far as we know. He's the only person getting punished because NBC had to retract a story that inflamed right-wing conspiracies, which means that he's suspended because he told the truth. That's why he's been suspended. They realized that, oh, wait, this story filled in the gaps that the FBI report didn't fill in, because in my opinion, the FBI report is lying by omission. It's very vague in regards to what happened between Paul Pelosi, the police, and the other guy when the police arrived. It's very vague. They say, well, Paul Pelosi nervously but calmly greeted police in a dimly lit foyer in the house. Like, what does that mean? What does that actually mean? They don't really go into details in regards to what that means, how far away the suspect was from Paul Pelosi. Again, it's just lacking details. This report filled in those details. And again, apparently that was too much. It's too much information. You now are validating what everybody knows, which is that, hey, we're not being told the whole story here. There's some issues, okay? There's body cam footage that they refuse to release. There's definitely security footage. All this stuff is on camera. The best way to get rid of the right-wing conspiracy theories is to just be transparent. But they're being everything but transparent. And then they're going as far as to, again, punish somebody who actually did provide a layer of transparency in his reporting. They're punishing him because, well, he's telling the truth. His report was probably true. Again, Nancy Pelosi, what happened to her husband is bad. It's terrible. Okay? That he got assaulted like that. But let's not act like that there's not a possibility that more could be going on here. But again, you're not supposed to ask questions about it. And if you do ask questions about it, or if you report on it factually, or you add more details than what they really want you to know, you end up like this guy. You end up suspended, right? You end up losing your job, being thrown under the bus because you were simply doing your job as a journalist. What this is, guys, is that this is a warning. This is a warning shot. This guy's been made an example out of. Nobody else is being punished except him, as far as we know. They're just letting everybody know, look, if you're a so-called journalist and you start putting out stuff that we really don't want people to know, this is what happens, right? This is what happens. So I'm just saying, it's mighty strange for a network like NBC to vet a story like this and then to end up retracting it and suspending the reporter and then claiming that it didn't meet their standards and it helped inflame right-wing conspiracies. Again, the best way to fight the conspiracy is just with transparency. We're getting everything but that, okay? Hence why the conspiracies are there in the first place. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.